Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the NAMI Lake County 40th Anniversary Celebration. Please make yourself at home. We're very excited to have you here today, and I extend our gratitude to St. Paul's Lutheran Church for hosting this event. My name is Christopher Huber. I am a Certified Recovery Support Specialist and long-term resident of NAMI Lake County. I'm also serving on the Board of Directors for NAMI Lake County and the NAMI Illinois Alliance of Peer Professionals. What has brought me here today is my own personal journey of mental health recovery. I'm here to convey that recovery is not only possible, but probable with the right supports. For me, NAMI has been a foundational component of that journey. Mental health recovery starts here with NAMI, with community connections, and with meaningful support. One of the pioneers in the recovery community is here today with us. She's been a dedicated member of NAMI for 20 years, acquired certification as a recovery support specialist in 2007 when the credential was first introduced, and continues to provide a message of hope and inspiration to those seeking support. Mental health experiences are often shrouded in stigma, and she brings an element of levity to those experiences. She considers members of NAMI to be not only colleagues, but friends and family. She brings an interactive musical performance to people in recovery, meeting people where they are, regardless of the logistical boundaries. She has already played once here in our community in Waukegan at Bayside Terrace, and today she is here to play for us again. It is with great honor that I introduce this creative genius, Susie Piasecki.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. This is awesome. NAMI is such a wonderful place, and I just think it's great that we can unmask our vulnerabilities and be supported to educate and advocate for people with mental illness and their families. It's just a wonderful place. I just thank you for listening to me today. I hope to help you enjoy these songs. I love music because it helps to just express, for every feeling that exists, there's a song that expresses it. And for me, the music that I played, somehow it relates to recovery, whether it's about acceptance, belonging, support, unconditional love. So what I'm going to play for you today, I only have a little bit of time, but I hope it makes a big impact and just helps you not feel alone. And this first song is called Blackbirds by Paul McCartney. It's very difficult to play, so I hope I don't make a lot of mistakes, but let's see. Basically, with the lyrics, take these broken wings, learn to fly. Take these sunken eyes, learn to see. Obviously, that relates to recovery, so I hope you enjoy it. Taking broken wings. Good night. Everybody loves a uke. Alright, this song is by Andy Grammer. It's called Save My Life, and definitely, as you can tell, relates to my health.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Rollenhagen. I'm the pastor here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. and we are grateful to host this, but I'm also the president of the board of NAMI Lake County. And on behalf of the entire board, I welcome you all here this afternoon as we celebrate. And you know, as we celebrate, I know we call it the 40th anniversary, which is, I guess, NAMI in Illinois, but and I do the math up there, and clearly we're talking about a lot longer effort to improve mental health in our community. 71 years, right? We're dating back to. John is going to explain much more about that history, and we're happy to have families who were involved in this effort from the beginning here with us tonight. And I also want to point out a couple of people who are here, a couple of community leaders. Tim Sashko of the County Board of Health is with us tonight. And Lisa Johnson from the Independence Center is with us. And thank all of you for being with us here this afternoon as we celebrate. Remind you that we'll have some refreshments afterwards. And now, John Fallon, long-time board member of NAMI Lake County and long involved in mental health issues here in the county, has a presentation for us about the history.
There's great worry about me presenting this. They've made giant signs for me to stop. I retired this year. I've been in the field as long as NAMI's been in existence for the past 45 years or so. And I have been a longtime member of the NAMI Illinois Board, and I'm responsible for the 40th anniversary of NAMI Illinois at the state level. And so I'm really found it fascinating to find out the history of NAMI. And then I was given, I'm actually going to go one page higher. You see these boxes over here? That's only some of the things that were brought into my house from Vi Orr, who is the person who founded NAMI Illinois. And I went through every one of those boxes, and a little part of a 3-ring binder from 1981 to 1982, sorry, in St. Louis, Illinois, for the 3rd National Conference for the Alliance for Mental Illness. There was a name, Paul Kaiser. And that led me down a rabbit hole, for which my wife hates, where I've been on the phone to Colorado and other places to find the Kaisers. And I also would learn about the Zagor's family. And I'm really happy to tell you a little bit about that. This is my one extra slide that this shows on before this. This shows Victory, and Victory was actually where the very first mental health agency was. It was in the nurses' quarters of Victory. That's from the 40s, the original Victory Hospital, now called Vista East, I think. It's no longer just Vista Systems, that's what I think it is now. Hard to keep track of. And below that's St. Therese, and you'll see that being knocked down right now. But that's as it was built. And in 1967, it was redesigned to have the very first psychiatric wing in Illinois, or I'm sorry, in Lake County. And so it was considered very progressive because they had doctors and social workers. And so I found that fascinating, and it's really been interesting to learn about the history back then. I did want to, if I can make this work there, say a bit about NAMI. NAMI has always delivered really strong support programs and education programs, and those are all of the programs, most of the programs. The one at the bottom, faith.net, if you want to find out about that, I think Mark, as our president, is interested in moving forward with offering faith.net, and that is bringing together the churches in this work, and they've always been a part of NAMI's work, and it's now been formalized in that program. Sharing Hope, if you want to know about that, Miriam, raise your hand. Miriam will talk to you in This is about reaching cultures that aren't normally reached, those who speak Spanish, which has long been something we hope to be able to do, and also the African American community. These are communities that are underserved. Also, Asian Americans, and did I say it correctly? Just so I can't say the name of the programs, but Miriam can if you need questions about that. But our most popular is Family to Family and the Family to Family Support Group. And that would have been the first program, and these are refined each and every year. We also have Ending the Silence to talk about it, NAMI on campus, as well as Ending the Silence. Those are in schools. We talk to people for early identification of mental health, and NAMI Connection, which is ongoing support. So today we're going to honor these two families I talked about. And this all came from Vior. Vior was the person who started the AMI Coalition, the coalition of AMI chapters. We were not originally called NAMI, we were called AMI, and then there was the National AMI. Now we're all called NAMI chapters. AMI means, is French for the word friend. And people in Madison, Wisconsin who started the program thought that was a good name, and in 1979, 285 people came from across the country when we were expecting about 30. And with that, they said, well, apparently there's some real interest in this family support groups that are happening all across the country, and they decided to form a national group, and they decided to name them AMIs, and then later it would become the National Alliance for Mental Illness. But we precede that. So I want to start back in 1953. Now, this is the slide where everyone fears the most, but it is to explain what things were like in 1953 if you had a mental illness. Almost everyone was kept in the state institutions across the country. There were 450,000 people in the state facilities in psychiatric beds. They were referred to as sanitariums. The idea was to keep people away from the community because they might be contagious. Everything, the nurses were all in white, and because we wanted to make sure everything was sterile and clean, and there were not medications until the 60s when Thorazine, which by the way is not a great drug, but was a very powerful and important drug in order for the first time to consider people coming home to the community. The state of Illinois had 33,000 state beds. The current state hospitals are not the hospitals that we consider those hospitals to be big now, but the really big hospitals were Manteno and Elgin, which had thousands and thousands of people. So we had 33,000. We now have 1,200 beds, and more than half of those now are people who are involved with the criminal justice system, either found not guilty by reason of insanity or were unable to stand trial for reasons of fitness. This is the directory, and you can see it outside and read through it. But this is the directory, and it's the statewide directory published by a private organization for the state, and it was the directory of services for people with psychiatric difficulties, mental retardation, feeble-mindedness, emotionally disturbed, and mongoloids. I expected this much silence to happen, but that was the phrases used. Here's just a couple of things that you should see. Many of these programs didn't take African Americans, you'll see. So in Plano, we had the Booth School for Educational Adjustment, a non-sectarian residential school with a capacity of 32, offering educational services to white boys from age 5, regardless of residence, who are mentally retarded or deficient. Mongoloids will be accepted. The following types of cases cannot be accommodated: cardiac, cretin, epileptic, spastic paralysis, hydrocephalic, microcephalic, and chronically ill. Our grounds cover 8 inches. Then it goes on to talk about the picnic grounds. How does that sound? And there's lots and lots of these things. So we've come a long way since 1950. That place we hold in our mind as being a perfect society, this is what we thought. The system was run by doctors and medical people. So sometimes people will say, well, NAMI seems to only care about the families. And the reasons were that the patients had no voice, and the families had almost no voice. And so they were first trying to give a voice about people with mental illness and not referring to themselves in these ways. So in 1953, here in Lake County, a group of interested people were interested in improving the mental health. And they surveyed the community, and they incorporated it under a not-for-profit. You see, they were part of the, under the guidance of the American Association of University Women, Lake County Welfare Council and Citizens Mental Health Committee. And they did extensive surveys because up until now, the only mental health services offered in Lake County were in Highland Park. And they felt there should be some services north to serve Antioch and Waukegan and some of these other cities up north. And so the original group was actually called the North Lake County Mental Health Society as they did this survey. And the survey came back and said, well, we need a lot more services. So they made a 501c3, and they then they raised money, they formed a clinic board of management, and they were ready to go as an agency. And so that was the first mental health agency in Waukegan and in Lake County, north of Highland Park. And it originally was in the Victory Hospital, which you saw before, now Vista. And now it's in a building that does not exist. The Dallas family donated the building in 1930, and that is Waukegan's first emergency hospital downtown. It's located where the Waukegan City Hall was. It had 3 staff that worked in it, and so this is the original public hospital, mainly designed for people who were in car accidents so that they had somewhere to go. The fire department would bring them to. So they got in there and they established it and started with 34,000 and 2.5 staff. It ended up in 1960 with 7.2 staff and $106,000. So it's growing by leaps and bounds. It's a private agency run by this group, and in 1966 it was incorporated into Lake County. They moved in 1968 to the Barlow building, which does not exist, it's now a park. And they continued to grow, and they were separate in 1966, they were a separate unit of Lake County government. In 1969, they were incorporated and transferred to Lake County Mental Health. And so the first mental health services that became the Lake County Department of Health came from the Lake County Mental Health Society. So that original group, which at this point may or may not have had Paul Kaiser. We're not really sure when Paul Kaiser joined. We do know that Paul Kaiser joined the Lake County Mental Health Society and was the president in 1971. So while I was excited to find out that he started us in 1984, it turns out that he really was involved since 1971, and the Lake County Mental Health Society has continued to be what is now NAMI Lake County. So Mark is right, 71 years. So as far as I know, I'm going to challenge all the affiliates in Illinois to see if their roots go back 71 years. But we may be the oldest mental health agency, and we birthed the Lake County Department of the Division of Mental Health under the Lake County Department of Public Health, and were absorbed by them in 1970. And so Paul Kaiser makes new plans. And this is the part where it's very interesting, because he writes that he would like to help children and teachers in education, and I have the papers back there for the Kaiser family to see where he writes this plan that he has in 1971. He wants to create a speakers bureau, he wants to create a telephone crisis line, and he wants to create an aftercare and rehabilitation program for those being discharged from the hospital. So he writes that in 1971. So, how did he do? Well, let's see. So, Paul Kaiser was a leader. He was the final board president of the Lake County Mental Health Society and the founding member of our affiliate, NAMI Lake County. Lake County Mental Health Society would become the NAMI of Lake County, and eventually NAMI Lake County, Illinois. Because we had the of Lake County, when they renamed us, we had to be called Lake County, Illinois, because there was NAMI, Lake County in Ohio, those darn people in Ohio. But we always had the UB that distinguished us before, but screwed us up with that. He also worked as an assistant state's attorney, an assistant public defender for Lake County, and he had a private practice. So he was busy. He was a strategic advocate, interested in advocating for justice and equity. So he was a leader. I put that in green. He was also a justice advocate. This is a picture that if you were involved in the community, they were all mad when it was built. And now I guarantee you, not anyone here knows this building exists. Behind McDonald's, there's a little building trapped back in there that serves people leaving jail and prison. It's called the Rebound Program. And now it's part of Kids Hope United, but it was started as an individual program in North Chicago, and then in Waukegan, and then it burned down, and they built a brand new building with a gym and other things, and currently serves people with the Department of Children and Family Services. That was because of Paul W. Kaiser's work in the law and his belief that people who he saw in court could do more, and so he was a justice advocate. I missed him. He also was really well known at First United Methodist Church, and this is a name the Waukegan Historical Society just found, but he wrote a book. This is Ralph Joseph Smith, and the two of them were friends, and they used to plot together. And so Ralph Joseph Smith became the Lake County chaplain. He was the original founding pastor of Faith United, now New Hope United Methodist Church. And the two of them created things like Meals on Wheels. They created, well, I'll tell you some other things, but Rebound was one of those things that they created together. He also was a lawyer, and his wife Mary was a beloved teacher in Waukegan Public Schools, and he had 3 children, and 2 of them are here today. Susan and Steve, you want to raise your hands? And then the picture of the graduation cap and gown is Bill. And Bill, while he was still in public school, needed treatment for childhood schizophrenia. And he had a very bad case, and so he wasn't able to go to regular school. And at that time, there was no requirement that education was free. That parents would have to pay for education outside of the school. And so they did. And they also had to look all across the country to find a program that would work. And the program that would accept him and the program that worked was a very good program, McNeil Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts. But because people thought that someone with mental illness perhaps was the fault of the parents, they believed that the parents needed to be seen with the child. And so it was a requirement of the family, if their child was in that program, that they had to come to Boston at least once a month to visit and go through therapy. And so they drove 1,044 miles, 38 miles, I did Waukegan to Boston, one way and back 12 times, or 24,000 miles in a car for several years. Am I right about that?
Fortunately, they got to fly a fair number of times too.
Oh, okay. I thought they had not flown.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they flew.
Yeah, Logan Airport, then you'd have to go through the old Callahan Tunnel to get into Boston proper, and then out to suburban Boston where McLean Hospital was located.
Okay, well.
Yeah, it was arduous to go back and forth with that frequency, absolutely.
Well, it was amazing that they did that, and Bill remains in the community today. He was in Fresh Hills programs for a lot of years. The Lake County Mental Health Society was one of a lot of programs across the country that went to the first NAMI program. And those groups then formed a national association. And Paul Kaiser, at the third NAMI convention in 1981, he signed a piece of paper, and that's the paper I found, that he wanted to form a state alliance of these groups. By 1984, he was vice president of the board, and Ami of Lake County had been born. He was also instrumental in creating the 24-hour Lake County mental health crisis, and I have Sue, who's here, comment about how she remembers going and getting the training in Gurnee, and then staying overnight at St. Therese in order to answer the phone. And this was an ongoing program, and I remember in the mid-'80s when we were here and I worked at Allendale, I remember the crisis line that then was absorbed into the county too. But originally this was a volunteer thing, and I think that you're right, Ralph Smith was involved in this. This was something they worked on together, but you saw in 1971 this was his plan to create this. So he also was a lawyer, and so he worked with a Republican, I think, I believe she was a Republican, right? Yes. Looking at someone in my, closer to my bracket, and yes, she was a Republican in Zion, and he worked to create the national law, because in the free and appropriate public education FAPE for students with disabilities in 1973, when the law was passed, that applied to people with developmental disabilities. It did not apply to people with mental illness. It required a lawsuit and changes in each state, and Paul Kaiser wrote the legislation and worked to get it passed so that now future parents would have that be included, and the community as a whole would take on the expense of making sure people with disabilities got an education through the 12th grade. So he was an advocate in that way. So as a leader, as a parent, a spouse, a father, and a dad, an advocate for justice, a lawyer, and a legislative advocate in Ami Lake County, would like to welcome the first inductee to what we're calling the Ami Lake County Hall of Fame. So, Bailey, come up. We're going to take the NAMI Illinois Conference this year. This is the first inductee to our Hall of Fame, and we'll display it proudly as our affiliate. And for the family, we want you to have your own copy. And we can all read it together, or I can read it. Paul Kaiser, as the first member of Navi Lake County Hall of Fame, for his dedication and support of all of Waukegan and Lake County and people with mental illness. He was president of the Lake County Mental Health Society, founder of Ami Lake County, vice president of the Ami Illinois Board, founder of Rebound, founder of the 24-hour Lake County Crisis Line, proud husband and parent of 3 children, assistant state attorney, assistant public defender, and mental health legislative champion. I don't know that we always pick up. If you want to come up here.
Well, thank you all for this recognition of our dad's work. I just have vague memories of him being very involved with this. I do remember taking the crisis training for the 24-hour hotline with him. That was I was in college at the time, and that was, I think we both learned a lot from that training, and it was helpful to us. And we're just really proud of him, and wish he could be here to see how you're recognizing him. Thank you again.
Our next person that we wanted to honor is, well, actually I forgot, there's one more thing that Paul Kaiser's family did, and hopefully this works. Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Kaiser started in Waukegan. And his wife Betty was the one that got me to come to the first meeting. I'm forever grateful because I was very resistant to go to the first meeting.
So, she lives out in Colorado now, and she's going to join us by Zoom. Her daughter and her are going to join us. And, I'm sorry, it seems to jump. So we selected Alan Zagor's for her role in a number of different things, but I decided that I'm not the person to present this, so I can't get in trouble for taking too long in this part. Instead, I'm going to turn it over to her talented musical family, Laura, and she's going to be on Zoom, and Louie and Peter, and I think first Peter's going to speak. Right, Peter?
Peter, my brother Peter is probably walking up to the podium right now. We can't actually see what's going on there, but I imagine he's walking up there, and Peter is affectionately known in our family as the #1 son. Not necessarily saying he's the best, right, Pete? But he was born first, so that's Peter, and he's going to share a little bit of the story with you. So welcome, Petey.
That's my sister. She told me I'm a success story, and I believe it. So, thanks for that. And I know I'll try to provide a synopsis of my life in 5 minutes here. But I like to think that my struggles helped my mother get the ball rolling and really put this thing in overdrive and really make it happen in Lake County. My first bout with mental illness was in January of 1981. I was away at school and ended up in a very dark place. I knew I needed help when I came home, and my mother and her friend put me in the car and drove me down to Berkeley Hospital in Chicago, Illinois, which was a drag. And I was there for a week, and it was pretty frightening for somebody who grew up in Lake Forest to end up in a psych ward in downtown Chicago. And after a week there, I went to Michael Riggs Hospital, which was like a country club. We got to eat whatever we wanted. We played basketball, we made models, we cooked food. We got to visit with our friends. It was really nice and bright. I remember bright sunshine everywhere. And 2.5 weeks I was there, and I was okay. And I got out, and we went down to Florida and back on an even keel. And took the summer off, and the next year I tried to go back to college at Lake Forest College, and I just couldn't handle academic thought, and left. And then I got a job at Kmart, which I did for a while. And then at one point, I ended up in the Lake County Mental Health Society at the day treatment program, which was very helpful. The people were great and did a lot for my confidence. Then had a couple other jobs. I worked selling cutlery door to door. I worked selling cable television door to door. Very trying job. Didn't pay much. Did that for a while. Ended up in the Mental Health Society again in 1985. I was there for 3 months. Got out. Took a year off. Didn't do anything. And then in '87. I got a job in an aquarium company, cleaning aquariums, which was like a godsend. And I did that for 4 months, but eventually I got fired. Through no fault of my own, it was a very difficult job. And I had a nice little rock and roll band with my brother. We had a nice little power trio, and it was so much fun. And I think that's what kept me going through this whole thing is music. I always had music going on. I think that's what kept me going. And now, then I went to Thresholds in '87, And I was living in a group home in Chicago on the near north side, near North Park College. And I lived there for a year, and then I lived on Division Street in another Thresholds home. And while I was there, I got offered a job at Dominic's Finer Foods. And I worked very hard for about a year. I was a bagger, and I had to eat some humble pie to work there, and it was very hard work. And I did that for a year as a bagger, and then I got promoted. And I've been in the grocery business ever since, up to this point. Now with Jewel Osco, Dominic's closed in 2013 and laid off 3,000 people. And I ended up at Jewel Osco, and I'm there now. And while I was at Dominic's, I earned a pension and, you know, put some money in the 401k, and I think I'm going to be okay. So, and you know, I like to think that my mom was like inspired by watching my struggles. I assume she was, and my sister has been great for the last 5 years. My brother's been great, my dad was great, and my friends have been great. And I couldn't be more thankful to my family and friends. Thank you.
That was a beautiful presentation. I wish I was there to see you. I'd be clapping in the audience, waving my arms wildly. Thank you, Pete, and you're absolutely right. You absolutely inspired Mom and all of us, and show us that you can live a long and good life and hold a job and succeed. So thank you so much for speaking. I want to just kind of go off something John said. You know, going into the history, it's like, boy, we have come so far since 1950. And 3 people that helped us come so far have been, obviously, Mr. Kaiser, who's a dear friend of our family, my mom, Ellen Zagoras, who we'll hear from in a moment, and then Marilyn. So what just a wonderful event we're having today. And frankly, in terms of the future, we're looking at people in the audience to carry the torch moving forward. But I want to just mention, as part of this history of NAMI, I want to introduce my mother, Ellen Zagoras, who was a woman who was thrust. Yes?
Could you just pull your camera down a little bit? You're on screen. You don't have to. Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. I just want to introduce my mom, Ellen Zagoras, a woman who was thrust into NAMI and fundraising and starting a nonprofit, which was called Independence Center. My mom is like so many other mothers who make a difference on this issue, and everybody in the audience, if you look to your left and you look to your right, you can do it too, and that's a little bit of Mom's message. So Mom, would you like to speak?
Well, thank you, yes. I joined Army how many years ago, and they were the ones that helped me get the money and get the Independence Center started in Waukegan. I want to be thanking them, the 35 members that were there for me every month when we had our monthly meeting. To kind of give you a little story, after I raised the money to buy Independence Center, I was at an Omni meeting, and I was very upset because now I had to do the zoning. I had to find out how to zone. So anyway, what happened is one of the members stood up and said, "Oh, the mayor is my brother." What? So at 2 o'clock, we met with the mayor, and she came along, of course, and at 3 o'clock, when I left the meeting, I knew we had our zoning for Independence Center. So thank you, Omni members, for that. We had a very positive meeting. We would discuss for 5 minutes. Everyone would discuss the people with mental illness in their family. And then at the end, we all tried to help each other with our little situations. But it was a very positive meeting, so I thank them very much. And I think I was president for 4 or 5 years. And they just had fundraisers for Independence Center. I think it took us about 2.5 years to get it established. And it's still going. And you'll hear more about that from somebody else up there. Anyway, hopefully you'll become a member of AMI. You can make a contribution and get their newsletter if anybody's listening. And Independence Center is fashioned after Fountain House in New York. Very successful program, cost effective. And I think it's been around about 80 years. So I hope Independence Center keeps going. Yeah. Well, thank you everybody in AMI for helping me.
Fun things. When Mom first went to the NAMI meeting, she learned right away that she was not the only parent whose child did not want to take medications. And so right away, after Mr. Kaiser got her into going to a NAMI meeting, Mom experienced the first benefit, which is that none of us are alone. Mom also experienced the benefit of knowing that 1 in 4 families struggles with a mental illness. So she realized we are not alone and we are large enough in numbers to do some fundraising. Mom, really, I want to mention, NAMI was really Mom's foray into understanding the importance of fellow parents in working within this issue, that it wasn't just a medical model, it's not just about psychiatrists and a medical model, that this is really about families, and that they have a piece of this and can do a lot. NAMI is obviously the group that really kind of empowers families to make a difference and does that so well. My mom used to tell stories about like the first couple of NAMI meetings she was asked to attend, and getting people to bring coffee and food, and just how all the parents just started pitching in. And then Mom and Marilyn started kind of getting people's numbers and making an emails list. The next thing you know, they're developing small donors, they're writing a letter, they started a newsletter with positive words, book suggestions, and it started to take off. There's also a wonderful story about Mom and Marilyn starting the Yellow Pages, which was literally a booklet that had all the information about different providers in Lake County, and also people who were kind of on the perimeter of these issues. So, for example, the fire department or police. So they included not only that service provider, but also the name of a person in there who was good in working with people with mental illness. This book really took off and became something that I'm sure John will mention later. Also, Mom and Marilyn got the 10,000 people listed as supporters for NAMI and for Independence Center. Mom inflated that, I think, at one point a little bit, but it worked with getting political action happening. I want to tell a funny story about Mom and fundraisers. Mom's first fundraiser for Independence Center started with only making $300. She was exhausted. She said, oh my gosh, I'm just a parent. How can I do this, right? She finishes that. She looks on her desk. There's a letter. It's from a teacher. This teacher sent my mom a check for $4,000. My mom said to herself, I can't do this. I'm just a parent of someone with mental illness. But this woman thinks I can. And my mom thought, I don't think I can go back now. And if you ask how Independence Center was really born and NAMI going up in numbers, that's the answer. So Mom would want all of you to know that you as a parent or you as a person who knows someone with mental illness can be that solution. And through it, Mom would also say you can actually be the person who grows through that process. You know, my mom didn't know she was going to be a spectacular fundraiser. She had no idea, but she did through this kind of work. So I just want to say to everybody here who's in the crowd over there, you can be part of the solution, and you might find out things that you're able to do that you never thought were possible. In conclusion, I just want to say that, you know, it went Fountain House, it went Thresholds, it's NAMI, it's Independence Center. It's a whole ecosystem of things that have been created by families to bring us to this point. And never have I been more positive about what can happen based on some of the new medications and other new interventions that are happening for people with mental illness. So today is a very celebratory day. John, I'll send it back to you.
Can I just ask you real quick while I'm walking up to the stage, can you just go ahead and tell me what your daughter does?
Yes, and so our daughter Sierra is the third generation, and she is a mental health professional. She's a therapist and counselor with her master's, serving clients across the Denver metro area. This is what we do.
This is what we do, yes.
This is what we do, John.
That's right. So the Zagoras family couldn't possibly tell you more about what they have. They are the spirit of families in NAMI, and for that reason, we would like to go ahead and award her the Hall of Fame. But I'm actually going to ask Lisa Johnson, the current executive director of the Independence Center, which is still here today, to say a word before we present that plaque. Okay, come on up. And I promise you'll be able to see this all on video, so you'll be able to see the people who carried on the legacy of your mom. Sorry, just a part of the legacy of your mom.
I'm not a big speaker, but I'm going to say this. I met Ellen and Paul Zagoras on October 2nd, 1989, at the open house for Independence Center. And it was the vision that when I first went there, it was like, wow, is this Zebra Cartwright? And we have an 8-track player and a picnic table. But the vision was so clear that I was hooked that day. That was like 2 days before actually I started. And so I just want to say that the vision that they communicated to me on that day is the vision that I continue to push forward this day. And that one group of people can make monumental changes, and Ellen has demonstrated that to me. That and I think the first year, Ellen brought more needles and thread than I've ever seen in my life. She had a donation for us, and also the plants that she gave us, we still have at the Independence Center, and many people comment.
Remember all thread, the plants. Oh my God, fun memory.
And I just want to say thank you. The plants are beautiful, but more importantly, the things that Ellen has done for the mission of helping persons who are on their path to recovery and getting Independence Center started lives on. And I don't thank you enough, nor the people you've impacted at the Independence Center. We'll be able to thank you enough. Thank you.
Yeah, you're up. Take a good picture. Let's have the Zagoras family come forward. Face the camera.
We're so honored, guys. Thank you so much.
You can actually read it here. The big one. Yeah, read it. I didn't realize. Again, this will go down to the state, and you switch us back to the PowerPoint. Oops, I'm going the wrong way.
this is what this says. I'm sorry I didn't actually read it. We wish to welcome Ellen Zagoras as the second member of the Menominee Lake County Hall of Fame for her dedication and support to all of Lake County and people with mental illness. She was the Menominee Lake County president, founder of Independence Center, a proud wife and a proud parent of 3 musicians, a family that carries on a multi-generational legacy of continuing mental health advocacy. By the way, she also was married. Her husband just passed away, but he was a lawyer also, and so all of the legal work for the Independence Center, because you're married to Ellen Zagoras, then was accomplished by her husband, Hercules Zagoras. Without her tireless and fearless fundraising, the Independence Center would not exist. Ellen worked to create a safe space in Lake County for persons with mental illness to grow, live, and work in our own local community. And for those who don't know what Fountain House was, it was a safe place for people with mental illness leaving the hospital. They used to cause a lot of ruckus at the New York Public Library when they were being released from the state mental health hospital. And most of them ended up going back to the hospital because they didn't know how to live in the community. And so the Council for Jewish Women bought a building because the library complained, and the building happened to have a fountain out in the front of it. And people with mental illness would go there, and they would teach themselves how to stay out of the hospital. And they created a building, they maintained a building, and Independence Center is based on those principles of a clubhouse. And to this day, no psychiatrist is allowed on the site of Fountain House in New York unless they're a patient. So that's the philosophy of the clubhouse fund. Oh, I'm sorry, is this in here? Oh my gosh, if you could see. How did that slide get in there? You have no idea the dirty look that Miriam Smith gave me, and we have done everything to make sure Miriam Smith didn't know this. And you usually have to be a lot older to get into the Hall of Fame, but we began with legal and the methods to get some improvement. We then went to the families, and now you see the beginnings of the seeds of recovery and new communities. And Miriam is, without a doubt, one of our most fantastic volunteers. And Miriam is in charge of sharing hope, and I think I want to tell 2 stories about Miriam really quickly. Story number 1. Miriam speaks Spanish. No one spoke Spanish. I can't tell you how much fun it is to go to a meeting with me and find out that I find out you speak Spanish and how much things I'm going to volunteer you for, and I did. Okay? And because I've been trying to create Spanish programming in a community that has 60% at one point people who speak Spanish, and Miriam took everything we did, and Miriam loves people, and so she started the very first group. It was all women. It was during the summer when all the landscapers are out, and Miriam had been trained in English family to family, and she met these individuals who spoke Spanish as their primary language, and they all had kids, and apparently the first meeting was a little crazy because those kids were running all over the place. So Miriam decided on her own, without any consultation with the rest of the board, which is usually how she does it because she comes up with these ideas. And the next thing I know, I hear that Miriam is holding family to family in the McDonald's Play Place. A place that offered inexpensive food and a place to go. It is the ultimate intervention, and for which I am so proud of. Miriam is known at both the state and the national level for her criticism, constructive criticism, pointed criticism of curriculum, and making sure that individuals at high levels understand what it's like to live with the mental illness, to be a part of a family with the mental illness, to live in a culture that doesn't, that has different ideas about the cause of mental illness. And she schools people regularly that she is African American, but not from Africa. She is black and not from Africa. I said it wrong. She is, yeah, that's why I was going to say that. That's one I can't say. She's Afro-Latina. So, Donald Trump would have a lot of trouble with figuring this all out. That she is both African, or black and Latina. And she's part of many cultures for which have been underserved, and she sees them all the time. So the last piece I want to tell you is, just recently, so Miriam can't manage to shop anywhere without getting to know someone. She knows exactly where I'm going. We have the second largest donation ever, $5,000 from our local Myers in Round Lake. Miriam lives over in Round Lake, and she shops over there and she gets her coffee there. Now, the rest of us can go to coffee for years and maybe they remember our order, but we don't actually get to know people. But Miriam can't not get to know someone. And so Miriam knew everyone there and checked in regularly, and then one of their employees got sick. And so Miriam called me last week in tears because this woman had passed away from cancer. Miriam knows and loves everyone. She knows the church downstairs, through her parents and everyone else, and she is one of the most fantastic people. So I don't think there's anyone that can argue. Is there anyone who wants to vote against? Okay, so she is the chair of the Lake County Health Department Governing Council. That's pretty useful, right? She's done a good job.
Excellent.
She keeps other various Lake County officials on their toes, doesn't she? She is a proud entrepreneur. She holds a patent, and she's a mental health. You do own that damn patent. She is the founder of our Spanish language here in Lake County, and really in Illinois. She's one of the leaders, and so she is a nominee Lake County Future Hall of Fame because we're not letting her out yet. So, Mary, do you want to come to the front? I also want to say that Miriam caused all those decorations out there. And I want you all to notice that there is NAMI mental health colors in the jello out there. And I can't tell you how much she cares about every part of this. Miriam, thank you.
Hello everyone. Bienvenidos todos. I'm in shock. John almost had surprises. Siempre me tiene sorpresas. This is such an honor. I love what I do. Me encanta. Tengo pasión por lo que hago. I'm passionate because NAMI saved my life, saved my family's life. NAMI salvó mi vida y la de mi familia. And I hope I'm making my parents proud. In our culture, I was born in Guatemala with Jamaican grandparents. Nací en Guatemala con raíces jamaiquinas. And my grandfather, from what they tell me, they never met him, this is what he did. He helped everyone in the community. He instilled in us to always be respectful, always work hard, and always, always be kind to everyone. To have a heart for other people. So, mi abuelo, no lo conocí, pero siempre nos dijo en la familia que dejó el legado en la familia, que trabajamos mucho, que ayudáramos a otras personas y que siempre fuéramos cariñosas y buenas con otras personas. So I accept this on behalf of my mom, Miriam Smith, mi papá Julio Smith, my mom Miriam Smith, and my father Julio Smith, and the whole Smith-Taylor legacy, la leyenda de la familia Smith-Taylor. Gracias. Thank you.
And they wondered why they couldn't really get a copy of the program. So we're actually going to end with Louis. Louis is a singer, and he'll say a few words. But we're first going to you're going to go ahead and plug in. Although make sure that Matthew sees you plug in. Okay, it's good to plug in now. We want to thank all the persons impacted, both family members and individuals with mental illness. And again, we show the programs. We ask you to go out and get information and to continue those kinds of programs. Louis is going to play a couple songs. We're going to bring out some food from the back. We have a little bit for you to eat. And then I think Miriam planned on, before I did this to her, she planned on maybe even playing a little bit of music. So you can all join us. So Mark's going to say a few words, but about those plaques that are on there.
First of all, thank you, Miriam. Comes from a great interest in mental health and great concern by many, many people, and will continue. Concern we all have, the board members who serve. We are, in Lake County, a completely volunteer board and completely volunteer organization. So thank you to the facilitators and everyone involved in the outreach, people who get out to community events to let people know what is available to help families. I have to say too, so recently in the last year, I've been, this is my third year on the board, and not too long ago, I took a role in handling the phones down there, and the phone calls that we received to our number of people needing help. And it was a powerful experience to hear. So it's great, one thing, thinking about what we do, but to hear the stories of people in the community who are looking for help in desperate situations and turning to us to find some help and some hope in what they're struggling with. So thank you who got this started. Thank you to all who are involved now in keeping things going. And please do join us for some refreshments afterwards and some conversation and learn about what we're up to now and in the future. And I also want to point out there are some plaques of appreciation here for board members and some former board members and people involved in facilitating and leading classes now. So please come up afterwards too and take a look at your plaques. So, thank you all. And thank you to John Fallon, who put in countless time.
Song. Music always got us through every situation we were dealing with in our life, so we'll play a song. I hope you recognize this one. long cold lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, the smiles returning to faces. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Sun, here it comes. Sun, here it comes. Sun, here it comes. Sun, here it comes. Little darling, I see the ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. This one's called Love Land. It's one of the songs that I wrote, and just about how love is so important for everything that we're doing, and obviously for NAMI, and getting love and spreading love around and making everybody happier in this world. So this is a song I wrote called Love Land. I hope you like it. Roses grow up through the ground in midnight. Magic love lights up the sky like starlight. Nothing's right or wrong. You can stay there all day long. If things go wrong way, you're in command. You're in love land. The warriors won't be 10 feet tall in love land. There's no rough ground when you survive all your falls from love land. Let flowers bloom and fade away, and good things happen every day. And I'll see you, baby, late today in love land. You'll be back, I know, 'cause there's no place left to go. Don't think too much that you won't understand. You're in love land. Love land. You're in love land. You're in love. You'll never grow any older if you love with everything you have. Anytime it's time to come over, so baby, come over. Baby, come over. Come over to love land. was just so incredibly proud of her that she was doing this, and when she did it, I was absolutely floored and just so proud that my mom and dad had done this. And me, my brother, and my whole family are proud to carry on the legacy and just continue to help people. And that's what my family's always been all about, just helping others and the Kaiser family as well. So thank you so much, guys.
And that, my friends, if you're a volunteer for NAMI, please pick up your plaque. If you're a board member, if you're a teacher, if you're any of those things, please do it. And this concludes our program. And right now, we've bought a lot of food. So go out and have a little bit to eat and talk to one another and make the world better. Thank you all.